Hello everyone and welcome to the APC Advanced Route to Market Demonstrator 2 applicant briefing. We have just invited everyone into the call, and the briefing will be recorded and available to refer to through the IFS date page. We can also provide PDFs of the presentation on request, and if you would like a version of that, please contact our customer support team. And there's some more information on the competition process on our YouTube site, so please go take a look through all the information available to you there. So on today's call, we have myself, Rachel Evans, a Senior Portfolio Manager within the Competitions team at Innovate UK. We have Zoe Hall, who is Head of Competitions at APC. Joe Lyford, our Programme Manager at APC and ATF. And we also have Chris Harris from APC with us as well to answer some questions. So this slide just goes through a little bit about what Innovate UK is and what Innovate UK does alongside APC within this programme. So Innovate UK is the UK's innovation agency who support business-led innovation in all sectors, technologies and UK regions. We're a key delivery body of the government's innovation strategy. So I'm now going to pass you over to Zoe Hall, who's going to talk us through the scope of this competition.
Thank you, Rachel, and welcome. This competition is delivered by ourselves, the Advanced Propulsion Centre, and funded by the Department for Business and Trade. Next slide, please. So for those of you that aren't overly familiar with the APC, we are here to help transition the net zero automotive industry through funding, support and insights. We collaborate with the UK government, the automotive industry and academia to accelerate the industrialisation of technology to support this transition to deliver net zero emission vehicles. We are dedicated to supporting the UK's global leadership position in scientific research, automotive engineering and net zero political ambition by enabling the de-risking of new product and process development, supporting both domestic and export markets. This ARM competition is the latest funding product from the APC to support this activity and to support the UK automotive industry. Next slide, please, Rachel. Here's a brief overview of the timing. As you can see, ARM2 has a compact and deliberately fast-paced awards process. You will find stringent requirements in terms of the pace for the projects itself, which we'll come to later in the presentation. Very briefly, the next slide provides you with a quick overview of the application. I'm going to go through all of this in detail, so what I won't do is dwell on this, but effectively it is split into 4 parts. And you have a couple of questions 1 and question 11, which require you to input but will not be marked. So on to the scope of the competition itself. So the aim of the competition is to develop and realise a demonstration of capability that could lead to further business exploitation. The projects must utilise future net zero powertrain technology to demonstrate this and show how the sector can transition to zero emissions for the automotive sector. Capability demonstration can be made through either a physical vehicle, a physical subsystem, or an equivalent digital demonstrator that can be operated or displayed at Cenex Low Carbon Vehicle event in 2024. And this is a key element of dissemination. You can see on the left-hand side the technical scope areas which align with the Auto Council strategic technologies. Other key scope requirements are as follows. The grant ask of between 500 and 1.5 million pounds. So that's 500k or 1.5 million pounds, which is grants and not project cost. And also to point out that it can be no more than 50% funded versus project costs. So to be clear here, if you have a single applicant that is an SME, you can only entitled to 50% grant funding, not the 70%. And if you include an academic or an RTO, you can still only get the maximum funding of 50% grant versus the project cost. So you need to make sure that you balance this out or else your application will get rejected. The project itself must have a duration between 9 and 12 months and start by October the 1st of this year at the very latest. The primary application the technology is developed should be the automotive sector, but of course, if you've got spillover benefits that go into other sectors, that's very valuable. The vehicle applications themselves can be on or off-road. They can be agricultural, heavy-duty mining, and zero-emission urban goods vehicles. So that does include your two-wheelers there. And also single entity or collaborative projects are accepted. We have a comprehensive list of projects that we're not funding, and you'll find that within the detail of the scope. So once successful, these 12-month projects can be used then to seed fund development programmes in the UK by potentially attracting overseas investment into the UK. And that is the aim of the competition in itself. So let's get down into some details and go through question by question what you need to do. So as I say, the first question is not scored, but does need to be completed. Thanks, Rachel. Then on to market opportunities, question 2. So what you need to do here is address what market opportunities you have identified and how these are going to be exploited. So describe here, as it says on the slide, the market dynamics, the competitive conditions which your project seeks to change or take advantage of, and the scale of the potential opportunity. So what you need to do is you need to explain, quantify, and provide evidence, which is critical, of the exploitable output, the potential market size, the route to market, and the commercial benefits this creates. A credible route to market must be identified, and if you've got any letters of support, this obviously will increase your credibility. You need to explain how this demonstrator will unlock specific market opportunities and accelerate further business growth in both manufacturing and associated supply chain. You must provide evidence that your project is integral to the business strategy of all project partners, or yourselves if it's single entity, and outline the arrangements relating to exploiting the project's intellectual property rights. If the developed technology has potential applications in other markets of the sectors, then identify these here as well. So on to question 3, and that is all about innovation. So what is innovative about this project? So you must clearly identify the extent to which your project is innovative, and think about it not purely from a technical sense, but also a commercial sense. So describe any new technology your project is seeking to create, develop, or improve, and comparing this to what is currently available in the market. Explain how the know-how or IP of the consortium members is likely to be developed. And in terms of commercial innovation, explain how existing technology is being applied in perhaps a new way, and how this will deliver business benefit to the partners. If applicable, describe where any areas of knowledge transfer are taking place. So for example, if your technology is migrating into other sector boundaries, this is a really good place to demonstrate that activity. So on to question 4 and the technical approach. What technical approach will be adopted? You need to provide an overview of the technical approach the project will take and include the main objective of the work. You must describe the current status and development status of the product here. Describe the technical work packages together with technical, design and validation and engineering challenges that are going to be addressed. And you also have an appendices for this question. So here put in any charts, CAD, photographs, I don't know, technical data that you think will back up the narrative in the document itself. Question 5 then moves on to project management and how you will ensure effective control and timely delivery of your project. So here you need to describe the approach to project management, identify any major tools and mechanisms that you will undertake to have a successful outcome. You need to have a really detailed project plan to ensure that we can understand the links or dependencies between the work packages or milestones. How and who is going to lead each of the work packages, any frequency of project reviews that you've already predetermined, reporting lines of those project management requirements, and also make sure that you've got effective project governance. Like I say, these projects must start before or on October the 1st. So in this question, make sure that you are able to evidence how this is going to be achieved. And with the appendices here, you need to include a project plan or Gantt chart. Please make sure it's readable, otherwise the assessors will not be able to mark you on that set time plan. So make sure you can read it at 100% zoom. If it is very detailed, just put in the key milestones and interdependencies here. On question 6, we're looking here around the team. So does the consortia or the individual have the skills and experience to deliver the project outcomes? So you're looking here at the capability of the team, what experience they've got, what know-how they've got already, your capacity and the capacity of any partners in terms of design, test and development, prototyping, manufacturing activities to deliver the project, any gaps in the team and how these will be addressed before you start on October the 1st, and how your organisation and any partners fit into the existing supply chain for the project. If your project is single entity, then you need to justify here how you have the capability to deliver the project as such, and why this is the best solution to successfully deliver this project. And if you're using subcontractors, either as a single entity or as a collaborative project, you need to identify them where possible and explain why they are critical to delivery of the project. So on to question 7, all about risk management here. What are the risks affecting the project and how will the consortia manage them? So again, look at the main risks and uncertainties of your project. Don't purely focus on technical, look at the commercial, management and environmental risks as well. Don't underplay risks, as this may be interpreted as a failure to recognise the importance of risk management to the success of the project. So make sure you put your key risks down. You then need to identify how you're going to mitigate them and the tools and mechanisms that you're going to be used through the project lifetime to provide confidence that everything is under control. Here in your appendices, use a risk register, same as before, make sure we can read it. Question 8, we're here looking at project dissemination. So how will the results of the project be disseminated? So you're looking here at how your project plans to disseminate the results following successful delivery. So this can be things around customer presentations, it could be around industry exhibits, conferences, seminars, any written publications. But the big factor here as well is around LCV. So we need you to deliver a demonstrator at LCV show in 2024, which is in September. So you need to articulate in this question here a clear description of what you will take to LCV, information on potential interactions at the LCV, and also a descriptor of what is going and who is going to be responsible for delivering that, so that we've got all the detail to give us confidence that you can deliver the outputs at this show. Be clear on the outputs that will be exploited by partners and organisations within the project, but also beyond the project. So don't stop at LCV, what are the outcomes post? And just to note, just from a due diligence point of view, that you will be asked to produce a closeout report and a case study should you be successful at the end of the funded project. So on to question 9, we're almost there. Now we need to look at costs. How much will the project cost and how does this represent value for money for both the team and the taxpayer? So you're looking at total project costs, the grant that you're requesting, why is that the minimum amount of grant that you need to deliver the project, how each partner will finance their contributions to the project, how this project represents value for money for both yourselves and the taxpayer, how it compares to what you would spend your money on otherwise, the balance of costs and grants across the projects, are they applicable? And include any subcontractor costs here, and again, explain why they are critical to the delivery of a successful project. And then on to question 10, which is all about added value. So how will this public funding help you accelerate or enhance your approach to developing your product towards commercialisation. You must provide evidence that the funding will increase the total amount that the consortia partners spend on R&D in the UK. So here you need to explain the advantages that public funding will offer your project. For example, accelerated development, what your project might look like should you not get the funding, the benefits of the involvement of the partners, and the wider benefits to the UK supply chain and automotive sector. Where you can, I suggest you provide potential economic and environmental benefits, such as jobs created or safeguarded, any potential future investments, any potential growth in sales and profitability as a result of a successful project, and any carbon savings or air quality savings that you can identify as a result of this project. And then lastly, we've got question 11, again, not scored, but just information around your marketing contact, so that should you be successful, both DBT and APC's marketing teams can get in contact with the right person. And that is me, Rachel. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Zoe. So we currently don't have any questions in the Q&A box. So what I'll do is I'll carry on running through the rest of the webinar, and we'll have a second opportunity for you to ask some questions at the end. So as we go through the next few slides, if you have any questions for Zoe or Chris or myself on the eligibility and the process side of things, please pop them in the Q&A box and we will go through them at the end. So moving through onto the eligibility criteria for this competition, Zoe has covered this off, so I won't go through it in much detail, but you can see here on the screen the criteria set out in the competition brief. So just some key ones to bear in mind. So we're looking for a total grant request of between 500,000 and 1.5 million, and your projects need to last between 9 and 12 months in length. So the level of funding awarded to you will depend on the type of organisation and the type of research being undertaken in the project. Funding is calculated per project participant, and IFS will advise the maximum grant percentage you can request based upon your answers to the type and size of your organisation and the research category defined by the lead applicant in the application details section of the application. So please make sure this is accurate when you go through the initial stages. So talking in a bit more detail about that, you can see here on the screen how the funding levels are calculated. So if you're a micro or small organisation carrying out industrial research, you're looking at claiming up to 70% of costs. If you are a medium-sized organisation doing experimental development, you're looking to claim 35% of the cost. So make sure when you are popping in those answers through those initial questions, they are accurate so that IFS will calculate the right funding percentage level for you. So when you go through the application process, you'll be asked to put in your project costs. Now, these are broken down into the 7 categories that are shown on the screen here. So they include labour, overheads, materials, equipment usage, subcontractors, travel and subsistence, and other. So it's important that you don't double count. All your costs are justified and as per your accounting practices, and they're detailed through for each partner within your consortium. So a going concern is a business that is assumed will meet its financial obligations when they fall due. It functions without the threat of liquidation for the foreseeable future. You should make sure that your organisation is eligible before you submit an application. And if you're unsure of whether you are eligible to receive a subsidy control, please seek legal independent advice. You can also visit our website, which has additional information, and contact our customer support team if you have any questions. So other Innovate UK funded projects. So if you have an outstanding final claim or an independent accountant report on a live Innovate UK project, you will not be eligible to apply to this competition as a lead or partner organisation. We will not award you any further funding if you have applied to a previous competition as the lead or sole company and were awarded funded by Innovate UK, but did not make a substantial effort to exploit that award. Or you've applied to a previous competition as the lead or sole company and failed to comply with grant terms and conditions. So we will ask you when you submit your application whether you are submitting a previously submitted application. Now that this is allowed for this competition, and you can see on the screen here what we would deem as to be a previously submitted application or not a previously submitted application. So please make sure you refer back to these descriptions when you go through the application process to make sure you're answering that question correctly. So again, Zoe's run through these, so I won't dwell on them too much, but I will just note that the submission deadline is 11 AM on the dot. Anything past this time won't be accepted. So please make sure that you are filling in your applications early and making sure that you're getting through that submission process well before the 11 AM deadline. If you have any technical difficulties around this deadline, you'll need to contact our customer support service as soon as possible so that we can try to aid you and make sure your application is considered. So as you can see here on the screen, you've got some application questions that Zoe has been through in detail with you, and all the detailed guidance is available on IFS for you to read through. And again, this slide just reiterates the point around the submission upload. So as you can see, the majority of applicants leave it to the last few minutes in the last hours to submit applications. We want to be able to help you, and we want to make sure that your applications are accepted and go through the assessment process. So please make sure you are submitting early with plenty of time. So if you receive a notification saying you have been successful at the assessment stage, you will have a further 8 steps to completing project setup, and they are detailed on the screen here. So please make sure as you go through this process, you are bearing these in mind so that you can provide them as quickly as possible, and then you can start your projects as soon as possible as well. So please keep these in mind. It's important to mention at this point in time that there is further information about our application process and our assessment process, as well as our project setup process for successful applicants on our YouTube site. So please make sure you pay that visit and watch those videos to help you understand the process in more detail. So there will also be a section that includes project impact surveys and questions. And as you can see, there's a link on the slide here for you to find out a little bit more detail about those. Guidance is available on IFS, and there will be more information as you go through the application process. But if you have any questions regarding this as you go through the process, please contact our customer support service team. I will provide their email address and contact number at the end of this webinar. So moving on, just to talk a little bit about additional support. So Innovate UK and along with APC, we are on a mission to embed equality, diversity and inclusion in everything we do. We believe that great ideas can and do come from anyone and everyone, and the diversity in all its many forms matters. Evidence shows that diversity and inclusion in businesses contributes to enhanced innovation, satisfaction, performance, and ultimately commercial success. If you need additional support, we have a delivery partner in diversity and ability that help us give you that. So just to give you an idea of what to expect if you reach out for this additional support, we have outlined the steps on the slide. So firstly, we ask you to contact our customer support team, either by using email or phone, mentioned previously and information given on the last slide. Please do this as early as possible, and we suggest at least 15 working days before the deadline. Together with the customer support service team and in your own time, you will complete a request form, which will then be sent to our partner, Diversity and Ability. Diversity and Ability will then conduct a discovery conversation with you and make reasonable adjustments, recommendations. As a result, they will organise and deliver bespoke, reasonable adjustments for you and with you. An example of this could be a couple of hours focused on reading through the questions, spell checking your work, helping with planning and time management, just to name a few. And then finally, we'll be asking you to submit your application. Once again, please make sure you give plenty of time before the deadline, especially as the deadline is set in stone in the system and no extensions can be granted under any circumstances. As a reminder, if you would like some additional support, we suggest getting in touch with us as soon as possible before the competition closes. Another level of support is our Innovate UK Edge. So an innovation and growth specialist is Innovate UK Edge. They're a team of scale-up directors who work with companies' leadership to hone its commercial strategy and help it take targeted action to, for example, build investment readiness, manage innovation effectively, enter global markets, and provide local to national to international growth and scaling support. So again, Innovate UK Edge is an intensive growth and scaling support that's tailored to the needs of each of our ambitious innovation-driven clients. It's offered alongside project funding to Innovate UK award winners, engagement at early growth and scaling stages with our core high growth service and enhanced scale-up programme. And it's also delivered by 290 innovation and growth specialists embedded in regional ecosystems across the UK, including a board of scale-up directors. So that brings us to the Q&A section of the briefing. I can see some questions in the Q&A box there. So whilst we go through this, I am just going to leave the contact details up on the slide here of all of the important numbers that you'll need as you go through the process. But I will just start reading through some questions that we've got. So the first question we have is, I noticed that you have to select only 3 technology themes and weight theme. If your project covers more than 3 of the 3 themes, how should this be captured?
There's some good questions in here, so I'll start off with this one. Yeah, if there's more than 3 technology themes, I'd recommend to pick the 3 most important, the 3 biggest contributors in your project. It isn't something that's scored, but we need to understand that from a technical portfolio perspective. So don't be overly concerned if you've got 5 themes, but you can only fit 3, and that's not a problem. Just put the 3 most important ones in there.
Perfect, thank you. The next question reads, please can you clarify the LCV requirements, timing, which year, multiple years, etc., and how, where that will be shown? APC booth, own booth, etc. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So basically it's LCV 2024, which is September 2024, and it is only for that 1 year. You may have seen the original armed competition portfolio was showcased at LCV 2021. Am I right, Zoe? Yes. Or maybe 2020, 2021, I think it was. But yeah, basically all of the successful projects were showcased at LCV all together on their own armed stand. So it will be part of the APC booth together with the rest of the armed portfolio.
Yeah, normally LCV is that first week of September. We haven't got dates yet for 2024, but it's normally the Wednesday, Thursday. So it's just trying to identify how you're going to get your vehicles there, etc., just so that we're clear of what size stand we would need to put in place.
And I guess throughout the lifetime of the project, for those successfully awarded projects, that's one of the discussion points that we will finalise with you and work out as we go through the process.
Yeah, 100%.
So the next question reads, we just had it was 50-50 and now is 70-30.
Okay, so you're definitely right. You did hear right in the first place. It's definitely 50-50. It does appear twice on the eligibility page where you can see, first of all, high level, it's 50% maximum. However, for an individual organisation, if you're an SME, you may well be able to claim 70%, but you've all got to come together as part of a collaboration to ensure that you hit that 50% minimum match, so that you can, you're not exceeding that. Anything that is above 50% with grant request will not be eligible. So yeah, it is slightly misleading on the eligibility page, but you're looking at that very first 5 bullet points, which really give the high level scope.
Thank you. So next one reads, what is your definition of micro, small and medium-sized organisations? So my advice for this question would be to go and visit our general guidance page, as there's detailed descriptions of all company sizes on there that you can refer back to. And if you have further questions following that, please contact our customer support service team, and we can go through it on a one-to-one basis, on a personal basis as well. Can we use goods and products we already own as part of our contribution to the match funding? For example, electric motor, batteries, etc.
Okay, I'll start off with this, and I might need your help, Zoe. So my initial sort of gut feeling on this one is that you can't do that. It needs to be, you can obviously use the goods and products you already own, but you can't claim back as part of this project. It would only be for new items that you're purchasing, new goods, materials, etc. So maybe you might need to...
Yeah, no, I think fundamentally you are right. It depends how you structure the project though. So my advice here would be to actually come and speak to us at the APC. There might be some nuances that you might be able to use elements of it. And if you're bench testing for argument's sake, but fundamentally Chris is right, it's got to be innovative, it's got to be new. So it's a hard rule, I would say no, but come and speak to us and we can understand a little bit more.
Perfect. Except for equipment usage costs, are capital costs allowed?
So yes, they are, as per the Innovate UK cost guidance under capital usage. The only slight issue that you might have with this is that it's a very short, sharp project. So 9 months is kind of what you're looking at. And this is basically, it goes under depreciation. So you're not going to have much time to depreciate your assets over that lifetime of the project effectively. So yes, it is allowed. Quite how much you'll be able to depreciate during that time is probably quite limited, I guess. I'd sort of point you towards the Innovate UK cost guidance details. And if you're struggling to find that, we can point you in the right direction.
And just be aware of the cost categories. So some of the things that you might typically think might go into capital could go into material. So again, come and speak to the business development, Chris and his team, and we can guide you on specific items if you're unclear.
Perfect. So investments have been done in the relevant project over the last year. Could this be accrued in the calculation of the grant share?
Again, similar to the previous answer a couple of questions ago, no. It needs to be new investments, new innovation, new materials and goods being purchased, and so you can't retrospectively claim for things that you've already purchased.
Perfect. If you plan to use resource from a sister company, should this be included in the costs and monitored / audited as though it was part of the main partner company, or should this be included as subcon?
I suppose the question is whether it's overseas or whether it's UK. That could be another angle. But so we can see you're all ready to answer this question. So I'm going to hand it over to you. If that's okay.
Yeah, I think it depends how, again, you structure the project. If those costs are going to be attributable to your match funding, then yes, they need to be governed and monitored and tracked in that way. If they are being used because you don't have the resource internally, then you could put them through subcon. So it depends how you're attributing those costs and resource associated with that sister company, and to Chris's point, whether it's UK or not. So again, come and talk to us, and we can talk you through the best way of handling
that.
Would projects relevant to motorsport industry be considered?
Okay, so motorsport as a sole exploitation route, no, but it could be as a secondary exploitation route. The primary application for the technologies is automotive sector. Cross sectors also very valuable to have as part of it, but effectively the statement is vehicle applications in scope can include on and off-road vehicles, agriculture, heavy duty mining and zero emissions urban goods delivery vehicles. So motorsport, it isn't a category that's called out. If you've got an on-road or off-road capability, and motorsport is an exploitation route, then that's fine. But I would say that it would be possibly not. It wouldn't be in scope.
Perfect. If a company changes size during a project from, for example, from medium to large, does the grant fund limit change accordingly, or is this based on the status at award?
Gut feeling, I'm saying, and I'm going to get some friend
Joe will
to
tell
help
you
me
the
here.
answer.
Gut feeling that I would say that it's based on status at award, but Joe, maybe.
No, that's correct, Chris. Yeah, so it is typically based on the status at award. So if you are successful in the competition, then you'll go through a due diligence process with our project finance team, who will, certify that your costs are eligible and that your company size and that kind of thing is correct. But yes, any changes, I mean, I would recommend keeping us informed of any changes to your company throughout the duration of the project. But yeah, typically it would remain as it is at the award stage. And especially given these projects are between 9 and 12 months, I think we are very likely to honour that. So it would stay as it is at the beginning of the project.
Yeah, I mean, technically you don't need to notify, you need to get to your next financial year to change your status on a company's house. So the fact that these are really short projects, unless you do it on day one, it's quite unlikely that would get through the company's house before you notified us. But transparency is always really important on this.
Thank you. Is it possible to include investment costs for establishment of testing and simulation facilities, for example, hot, cold weather testing, simulation, test rigs and physical facilities for testing physical demonstrator vehicles?
Okay, so again, I would say no. You shouldn't. Well, you may well be able to try and do it, but I've got a feeling that within the scope of the project, the costing probably just won't allow it anyway. If you look at the investment costs, you're going to be depreciating it. You're looking at sort of capital equipment, and again, you just won't have time to depreciate it. But I don't know if Joe, Zoe, you can add anything to that on your gut feeling again says no.
I would recommend reading through the cost guidance, which is available through the competition page within the Innovation Funding Service itself. But yeah, it is very much the usage of capital assets that we allow as claimable, as eligible costs, rather than the building of capital facilities and that kind of thing. So there is a definition in terms of what counts as capital usage costs, and one of the elements behind that is that they have to be standalone, clearly definable and movable. So based on that question, I'd say that those costs wouldn't be eligible, but absolutely read through the guidance online. And if you've got some further detail that you'd like to discuss, then get in touch.
So what count as EDI reasonable adjustments? So for this question, I would really advise contacting our customer support team, who can give you a full breakdown of what support can be given and what is available to you. If you have anything at all that you consider something to be that you would like additional help with, please reach out to us. We have things in place to support and assist. But yeah, if you contact our customer support team, they can give you a full breakdown. So a question of the demonstrator at LCV. Suppose only a part of a powertrain system is your area of innovation expertise, i.e. a power module. Can you present it as a separate entity at LCV, or does it need to be integrated in a subsystem?
Okay, so the requirement is for a system, subsystem, or full vehicle, and obviously that's what you'd be demonstrating. So as an individual component, it probably isn't what you'd be looking to do, because you'd have to be part of a bigger system or subsystem. So again, I think it's maybe, if you're not sure about whether you're in scope, then please reach out to us and we're happy to talk that through. Again, gut feeling from what you said there, probably wouldn't be okay, but you probably need to be part of a bigger project anyway to be able to do that. So I think then if you were part of a bigger project, you wouldn't just be showing your individual item, you'd be showing the bigger system. So yeah, if you're still unsure, reach out to us and I'm happy to talk that through with you.
Perfect. Will projects focusing on electric transport refrigeration units be considered as in scope?
Zoe.
It depends what vehicle they're in, doesn't it, really? So I think, yeah, you'd need to come and speak to us on that. If it's demonstrated a refrigerated vehicle from a net zero transition to net zero, we consider it, but it would depend what vehicle, but the subsystem itself, I would say probably not.
Is there a common set of KPIs, scorecard each question will be rated along?
Okay, so my advice on that one is look at the in the competition brief on the gov.uk site, look at the how to apply tab. Within each of those questions, there is a number of bullets and points that guidance that it gives you. Those are the things you've got to answer. In terms of what scores what, that depends on how you answer the question. But first point I would say is just make sure you cover everything that's within those bullet points as long as they're valid for your application. If you miss one of those or you miss a couple of points in there, then you're kind of missing half what the assessors are looking for. So that would be my recommendation, really, rather than give you a set of KPIs, scorecard. That is effectively your scorecard, really.
But the answer is yes, there is. The assessors do have an assessor matrix on each question that's provided by Innovate UK.
Is it possible to apply for zero net aviation industry as well, please?
Okay, so primary application has to be automotive. If there are cross-sector applications that come out of the project on the back of it, fantastic. But as primary application, zero net aviation isn't applicable or eligible.
If you're eligible for 70%, you just need to cap the claim at 50%.
Again, I guess it depends if you're doing this as a single entity or if you're doing it collaboratively. If you're doing it collaboratively and you've got a large organisation and an SME, at 70%, then you'll have that conversation between you about who drops where, because ultimately you've got to get to that 50% maximum grant. So if it's just you on your own and you are a small SME with 70%, then yes, basically you would need to cap at 50%.
Is development of lightweight materials, including manufacture of demonstrator parts, within scope?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's lightweight materials and manufacturing for vehicle and powertrain structures, Paul. So based on what you've just said there, I would say yes, but come and speak to us.
If we apply for industrial research, could Innovate UK decide it's an experimental development and reject us on that basis? How can we be sure that our project will be seen as industrial research?
So that'll go through the assessment process. So if you describe it as industrial and the assessors decide that it shouldn't be and experimental, there is a potential that they would sit there and not recommend you for funding based on that. So yes, do be honest about where this product sits and how much true innovation and research is needed and how much is tweaks to an existing product. But we do recognise that demonstrators, it is quite a fine line. So again, come and speak to us if you're slightly unclear, and we can advise, but it really is down to you to determine what work's going to go on that project.
Yeah, the research categories are defined in the general guidance as well, which obviously you'll have access to through the Innovation Funding Service. So we do ask that you enter the research category that reflects the majority of your work. But as Zoe said, the best thing to do if you've got any concerns, I think, is to reach out to, Innovate UK customer support, as well as, the APC.
So we're in the process of completing a SMART grant application for a different project. Can we still apply for this grant?
Yes, would be the answer. Yeah, no problem. It's not capped to one grant application only. If you've got other things in going on, then that's absolutely fine.
What I would say though is if you are successful in both, you can't get funding for the same product. So you do need to be aware of that. So hedge your bets by all means if you're doing exactly the same thing, but you will need to make a choice if you're successful on both.
Clarifying the motorsport question, would a demonstrator of novel tech using motorsport application that then becomes applicable to an on and off-road auto be eligible?
Yeah, it is kind of a fine line, this one. I would say that it would probably be better flipped the other way around, so that it's an on-road app or on and off-road application that is then applicable to motorsport. I guess what I'd say is that it will be quite strong competition on this funding round, and those technologies that kind of front and centre and are meeting all of the requirements will probably stand a better chance. So if you've got something which is slightly off to the centre of directly meeting scope and eligibility, it might be a little bit more challenging to get funded. What I would say is it's probably worth a chat on that one, to be honest. It's not 100% clear. I would say that you could do it that way around. It might not be the best way to do it though.
How many projects one company can apply?
Okay, so that's down to yourselves. Obviously, if it's the same project, just reworded in different ways, that's probably not a great idea. But if it's different projects, different demonstrators, and different technologies where there is no crossover, then yeah, I mean, it's as many as you want to put in really, but there is a limit probably to how many you would be likely to be funded should you be successful with all of them. I think I would really spend your time focusing on the key technologies and applications that are really your primary focus. The more you put in, the less focus you're going to have on the applications that you're putting in, without kind of being judgmental about the level of application that might come in. So yeah, that helps.
Can you give examples of thermal propulsion as mentioned in the original scope, please?
So thermal propulsion, internal combustion engine, but it needs to be net zero now. And if we're talking hydrogen, so hydrogen combustion, then that would need to be off highway rather than on highway. So anything else to add?
Yeah, it's just the differential between on and off highway. So if it is on road solutions, then it needs to change to get to the net zero. If it's off highway, hydrogen's acceptable.
Would it be right to say that the total project size can be 3 million based on a 50% grant being 1.5 million?
Yes, but the reality is that you just have to make sure that the maximum amount of funding is required. So if somebody puts in a project that has a lower grant intervention rate, that will be perceived as potentially better value for money than someone that maxes out at the 50-50.
And of course, you could also put in a project which is £4 million, but is only attracting 1.5 million grants. So you can gather there isn't a cap on the project size, just on the grant size. So obviously, if you've got a demonstrator project which is far bigger than 3 million, that's not a problem. Not a problem from our side anyway.
Does transition to net zero include anything that reduces emissions, or is it purely zero emission solutions?
Hopefully, so we just answered that one. So yeah, it is definitely net zero, transition to net zero, and not just reducing emissions. It needs to be that net zero piece.
Would lightweight recyclable exterior body panels with improved LCA performance over the industry standard be applicable for this call?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it would. Yeah. So if it's a system or subsystem or part of a full vehicle, absolutely, yeah. We've got lightweight structures is an element within the scope, so that would be in scope.
It's the routes market you'd have to think about there. What vehicles are going on? How would that be demonstrated? What's the uptake?
Can you suggest heavy duty examples, please?
Okay, so for example, you could go diggers, dumpers,
Mining,
tractors, yeah.
Are there any stipulations regarding what type of digital equivalent demonstrators are eligible? For example, photoreal product walkthrough or digital twin model for subsystem?
I don't think there is this, Zoe.
No, it's not specified, no.
Yeah.
Would costs be eligible for advancement of existing demonstrator vehicle?
I guess probably what you might be thinking about here is if you've got an existing demonstrator, but it might only be to an earlier manufacturing readiness or technology readiness, you then need to do the next iteration. So this could be then the next version of version 2, which is enhanced in all of the technologies and processes. If it's just advancing an existing demonstrator, my gut feeling says no. Zoe?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
Okay.
If it's advancements, it's a no. But again, come and speak to us if you've got a particular project in mind.
Would costs associated with potential customer fleet trials and product demonstration be eligible for inclusion?
The competition is funding a demonstrator vehicle or a demonstrator product technology. My feeling on this one is that you might be able to include it, but it's on the periphery.
Yeah, if you've got a demonstrator vehicle that you're going to purely put through fleet trials, I would say the answer is no. So again, it depends how you construct the project.
Does heavy duty include military vehicles or even civilian versions of similar vehicles?
We haven't got military in scope on this time around, have we? But again, it's not explicit. So I think Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say that, yeah, it probably could be, but again, probably might be worth the conversation. If you've got a specific in mind, then yeah, reach out to us and we'll have a
It is worth noting that for Armed 1, we did specifically call out military vehicles, but we haven't done in the scope in this time around, so come and talk to us.
Would letters of support / interest from non-UK based OEM target customers be relevant to include in Appendix 2?
Yeah, I mean, the more evidence and more information you can provide about future exploitation of the potential for the product or technology, that's great. If it's non-UK, that's okay. If it's UK, that's great. I think what we're looking for here is really kind of evidence that what you're developing has really got a route to market out the other end, and that would be perfect.
Would cost down of technology be considered as in scope, even if only part of the project?
Well, ultimately, we're looking to get the demonstrator for exhibiting at LCV. I mean, I guess if you're developing a new technology and as part of that new development, you're bringing the cost down, which is probably reducing weight and complexity. I don't see why that wouldn't be in scope, but really that isn't the scope bit that you're looking at. You're looking at really what's the end output that you're looking to achieve with the project. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be a good thing to include, but it's not necessarily something that we've called out as such, but it's certainly could be something you could put in justification behind the demonstrator.
And my apologies, I missed part of an earlier answer. Would H2 ICs be considered for on-road applications or just off-road?
Okay, so just off-road, not on-road, unfortunately.
Okay. I think that brings us, oh, I've got one more coming. Could a new software development and integration with an existing demonstrator vehicle be eligible as a subsystem?
Now, we save the best till last. I think probably I might need to have a chat with you on that one. It might be okay. But yeah, I suppose it's what is the demonstrator that would be delivered at the end? Possibly. Let's have a chat. Reach out to us at that.
It depends what the outcome is, and what is that new software development going to deliver over and above, and what is the route to market as a result, and what's the uptake as a result. So definitely worth a conversation.
And another one just popped in. Would IVA approval mirror proving be included?
That's type approval at Myra test. So I would say no for a demonstrator, because you're not really at that type approval level for a demonstrator vehicle. But come and speak to us. But my gut would say no. Chris, would you agree?
Yeah, gut feeling says no. Yeah, type approval generally isn't something that can be included within the project costs.
Then there's just one final question around a question whether the scope say that on-road H2 ICE is allowed if it aims for net zero harmful emissions.
Okay, hi Nick. So reading the scope, it says fossil fuel free internal combustion at the point of use. In the case of on-road solutions, will support project proposals which aim to achieve zero harmful tailpipe emissions. That is correct. The guidance that we have is that off-road hydrogen ICE is in scope, but on-road would not be. I guess we can have a conversation offline on that one. That's probably the best thing to say, Nick, I think, really.
Perfect. And then just to wrap up the Q&A session, someone's asked, are Innovate UK or APC best to discuss scope questions with after this briefing? So I think either really, but if you've got a very specific scope question, APC is probably your best point of call to start with. If they do come into Innovate UK, we can obviously field them and send them on to APC ourselves as well. So if you're confused, send them to either email address, but yes, APC are the best when it comes to specific scope related queries on a project. So what we'll do is we'll leave that there for today. All the contact details are on the screen here for you to contact. And as we say, both ourselves and APC are open to questions as we go through this process. So please don't hesitate to contact either of us for any support as you go through the process. Again, I'll just reiterate that a recording of this briefing will be added to IFS where you found the registration link, so you can look back and listen back to this briefing as well as the Q&A session. And also, if you would like a PDF copy of the slides, please contact our customer support and we will get those over to you. So thank you all very much for joining. Thank you, Zoe, Chris and Joe, for all your help throughout the briefing, and we look forward to receiving your applications.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.